We are going to can some corn today. We went and bought some frozen corn, but we got a good deal on a bunch of it, and our freezer is getting full, so we don't want to just stock it all in our freezer. So we're going to go ahead and can this. You can turn around and buy frozen corn and can it, and that is what we are going to do. We got our Presto electric digital canner. Go ahead and plug this in. As soon as you plug it in, it goes to where it's saying pressure can. So I'm going to go ahead and take off the lid, and I'm going to fill it up with the water I need. Go to that fill line right there. If you're doing quarts or pints, you still use 3 quarts of water. Alright, we got water at the 2 quart level. What we're going to go ahead and do is hit the next button. And it shows you a 10. And at this point, you go ahead and turn it up to how long you are going to process. And our manual that comes with this canner says for corn, process pints for 55 minutes, quarts for 85 minutes. So we'll go ahead and turn the dial till it says 55. It actually goes up to 180 minutes. So put it on 55, then we'll hit the next button again. Then it says insert jars, and what you want to do is fill your jars half full of water. That way it'll keep them from floating around inside the water that's in the tub. You can see the jars are in there, and we are going to go ahead put the lid on. Make sure your rubber seal is in place all the way around. Line up the install remove line. Twist it. Go ahead and lock your lid down. And we'll go ahead and hit the next step. And now it's warming. What's nice about this Presto digital electric canner, it totally does all the work for you. You just gotta add the jars and add the product in the jars. And to do corn, all we're gonna need is we'll fill the jars about 1 inch from the top with corn, put boiling water on the corn with about a teaspoon of salt, and keep the level 1 inch from the top, and then we'll put the lids on and start the canning process. Right now this is doing the sterilizing of the jars. That's also what's nice about this. It will sterilize your jars for you. It does 8 pints regular mouth or 5 regular mouth quarts. And one thing, you don't want to forget to take off your regulator. That has got to stay off. You do not put that on until it tells you to put it on. The timer went off, so now we got to, it says fill the jars. Use your jar lifter because they're hot. Alright, the corn's about 1 inch from the top. Teaspoon of salt, boiling water, Then with everything in there, make sure you're 1 inch from the top, and then put your lid on. Make sure you wipe off the rim before you put the lid and ring on. I got really hot water in this bowl, and you want to put your lids in that so it softens up the rubber. Put it on there. Just like that. Don't over tighten, just finger tight. And replace it back in your pot, and bring out the next one and do the same thing. Those two 30-ounce bags was enough to do 6 pints of corn. And make sure you put that bottom metal tray in the bottom of your pot, because when it starts boiling, you do not want the jars bouncing around on that to break. If you have that plate in there, it will help protect the jars. Alright, now let's back up the camera. We're going to go ahead and put the lid on. Remember, you got to keep that regulator off. Install, remove, spin it. Close your locking device. And now the jars are filled, and it still says filled jar, so we got to hit the next step button. And now it's heating. And the first process is when you remember when we turn the timer on, so it's going to be for 55 minutes of pressure. So now we got to let it heat up, and once it gets to the right temperature, then it will go ahead, because it's got to get up, and then it'll start blowing out steam, and it'll start a 10-minute countdown, because once it gets to the right temperature, it'll do a 10-minute countdown. That way it'll be able to fill the whole tank with steam and blow out a lot of that air. And then it will tell you when to put the regulator on, and make sure you have it pointing towards the canning. Because here it says on the sides, it says vent and then can. That way it's holding the pressure inside. And it's regulated to do 15 pounds. Alright, we'll check back in probably about 10 minutes. It went through the 10-minute countdown, and now it says put regulator on. So that just snaps right on top. Make sure you don't put your hand over the steam. Now you can hear the pressure building up on the second. That's your safety. Let's move a little closer. Since the steam is no longer coming out here, it's getting more and more right there. And we'll go ahead and push the next button to go to the next step. And now it says 55 minutes right there. But that does not, the countdown does not actually start until that pops up and it gets to the right pressure. Alright, it just popped up. Once it gets to the pressure it needs, the timer will start the countdown. Alright, now it's 54 minutes. It did say can above the number, and then once it gets the pressure, it pops down there saying canning. So now it is in the canning process. And we gotta sit back for 55 minutes and let it do its thing. Alright, it just switched over from canning to the cool down. So the heat is shutting off, and Now we gotta wait for an hour and a half. Between that point of it actually canning and it cooling down, you really don't do anything. It's all automatic. So now it just says cool because it's trying to cool down. So usually takes about an hour and a half. When there's 10 minutes left of the cool down process, when it gets to a certain temperature, it starts another 10-minute countdown. And I didn't catch it at the 10 minutes, but there's 6 minutes left now. And when that countdown starts, the 10-minute, then it releases enough pressure to drop that safety down. And now the pressure should all be gone. And when that timer shuts off, I'll be able to open it up and pull out that delicious sweet corn. We're down to our last minute. I got a dry towel back there. You want to make sure you put it on a dry towel because you're pulling out glass. You don't want to set it on a wet dish towel or towel you've wiped dishes with. Alright. Got my little jar puller and it says done. So now I can go ahead. What you do is hold in the X for 3 seconds. And then it goes to the blinking pressure can so you can start it all over again. So we'll go ahead and open this up. It's steaming quite heavily. Alright, next step is just to pull the jars out and set them in the back. And here is a jar of my chicken I did last weekend. And that stuff turned out so good. Oh, look at that. Perfect. And what you want to do after it cools down is to make sure you take those rings off or loosen them up. Because if it goes bad, the product inside goes bad, you want that lid to be able to pop up and let the pressure out and leak out, then you'll know that it's turned bad. If you keep that ring down tight, it's going to hold that pressure in there. Oh, they're popping already. So make sure you take those rings off. So as soon as those jars of corn cool down, I will take those rings off and use them on the next batch. Hear that? Those lids are already sucking down. One thing about pressure canning, almost as soon as they start coming out of that pressure canner, they instantly start sucking those lids down. It's pretty cool. Alright, that's how I can my corn, and you can do the same thing with the corn you get from your garden when you grow a bunch of corn, sweet corn, whatever. Take the kernels off the cob and wash them off and do the same exact process, just like that. And you'll have yourself some nice sweet corn for your food storage or your pantry. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye.